Sherry, who did the first presentation? Yeah, great job. And Steve does a ton of work with the meetup. And he's been doing it for a long time. So, and WordCamp, the whole New York WordPress community is awesome. So, let's give a round of applause. Okay, so I'm Laura. Might zoom in a couple of the slides here. I'm Laura, not Laura. Very important. Spelling is the most important part here. Pronouncing it's like, okay, whatever, just don't put a U in there. Here's me on the web, notlaura.com. Hey, at LauraS126, because someone named Laura has at notlaura. Hasn't tweeted since 2011, but pick your battles.
That's so annoying. Right?
Cool. So, woo, this is cute. So I do a lot of WordPress stuff. I do a freelance development. I work with a lot of small businesses, doing kind of design and development. I started as a fine artist. My background is in fine arts, and been doing design, development, kind of transitioned into doing WordPress sites. My senior year in college, one of my teachers was like, you should learn how to make websites, and then you can freelance. And so I did that. And it's not easy, but it's pretty cool. You get a really nice freedom, obviously, to kind of explore what you're doing. And I've really discovered a love for teaching. So it's kind of my bread and butter these days, is doing tutoring, but also teaching classes and kind of making all of this code stuff, particularly WordPress, more approachable. Because a lot of that, as I'm sure you all have experienced, is really locked behind a black box. And particularly with WordPress, there is a stupid amount of information out there of varying quality. So, never mind, I'm starting kind of an online school called the Tackle Box that's all about demystifying this WordPress stuff and making it easier to transition from that like themer, working in the admin part, to being a developer and kind of building custom sites. So, a little bit about me. How many of you have thought this before? I should learn how to code. Nobody? A little bit? Yeah?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
cross your. At some point you're like, maybe you're a very accomplished developer now, but at some point you're like, God damn it, I should learn how to code. It's so hard though. Like, where do you start? How many hours are you really gonna put into this? So I can relate. This is I googled empathy under images, and this is what I found. So it's like two guys, they both have tails, and they're like, oh, I know how you feel. So that's how I feel about, I should learn how to code. It's a very vague statement. It's one of those things, it's like, oh, do I commit to this huge thing? My answer is, yes, you should. If you have that question, yes, you should learn how to code. So if you want to kind of further what you're doing with WordPress, what you're doing with web development, it can be a hobby, it can be whatever, but I think if you're having that thought, yes, you should. It's not something you need 100% to make more money, to do whatever, but if you're having that thought, it's something like worth looking into more. My opinion, of course. That being said, this is Intro to Coding for WordPress. Another thing about coding is that to use WordPress, kind of the point of the thing is that you don't need to know how to code. So when you get to this point using WordPress, you're like, I need to know how to code, but I thought I wasn't supposed to need to know how to code. It's weird. So I'm hoping kind of the information I go over today and next time too, which would be pretty cool, will be very relevant to WordPress specifically, because you can go online and do HTML tutorials, CSS tutorials, JavaScript tutorials till the end of time, and you're not going to learn how to implement it within WordPress. So, how many of you feel like this is what coding is like, programming? You're like, oh my god, these people, like these developers, where are they getting this? Like, what kind of magic sauce is this? You see people at the computer and there's like, and if you watch them, if you watch their screen, there's like windows flying all over the place, and you're like, how do I do that? Like, what's going on? So, what they're really doing is Googling. Okay, I'm 100%, well, I mean, sometimes you're coding, but you're usually coding based on what you Google. Okay, so the role of a developer in like this learning to code is really learning about how to find answers and how to curate those answers. That being said, another big part of coding, and this is kind of maybe seems like a little arbitrary thing, but is physically typing well. Because the characters you use when you're coding, you do not use anywhere else for any other purpose. Like, tell me the last time you were not writing HTML and you needed to write 2 angles or curly braces or like a colon word semicolon, right? Like you don't type like that. And so I think for people just learning, that's one of the biggest barriers to entry is just like the physicality of using the keyboard like that. So it's, I mean, I remember in, what was it, like 3rd grade, whatever, they, I mean, I doubt they teach this in schools anymore, but like you learn to type and it's like, oh, you hold your hands like this and you do some weird little like thing. I don't know. This is a little diagram if I'm supposed to type, so to speak. You don't do that when you're coding. It's a completely different thing, and the workflow aspect and the actual handling of your machine, I think, is a bigger barrier to entry than learning the coding concepts themselves. So, ooh, that's kind of how you feel when you watch a developer. Or a nice little owl, and you're like, I could never learn how to do that. But you can, and I'm going to help you get started. Okay, before we code, we're going to talk about what things are a little bit. Kind of set some grounding for what this code does, specific to web development. But we're going to start with this cute little metaphor. So I'm totally ripping off this webcomic that I found, I think it was on like a Reddit thread or something. It was like, cute comic about how the internet works. But this has like formed the foundation of so much of my teaching philosophy, this little comic. But I've adapted it a little bit, so I'm going to go through this little animation video. And here's what I'll zoom in. Okay, so this here is you or me on our laptop, of course. Little queen, king / leader here. So we're at our laptop. And we have Google Chrome here. Chrome, of course, is the preferred browser of choice, maybe. Not all browsers are created equal. I'm sure we kind of know that. You don't have to use Chrome, but it's kind of the developer standard. There's definitely a set of software that developers go to. Usually Chrome is the browser. So you've got Chrome, and you're like, hey Chrome, go get me notlaura.com, because I know everybody's going to be going to my website later. And Chrome says, all right, got it. And whoa, now we are inside this huge land of the internet. So Chrome's like, all right, I got to go find this notlaura.com. Where the hell do I go next? And we have this little guy here who is a kind of a helper. He's like this kiosk. And so Chrome's like, where's notlaura.com? He's like, well, let me look. Okay, go this way. So he points me over here. That's kind of analogous to, like on my phone, if I'm going to call my brother, I call Ben. I don't call his exact number. I don't even know his exact number. So each of these little apartment buildings, so to speak, before we get into vocabulary, is where the website's going to live. And each of them has a specific address. And so our browser doesn't know that address yet until it talks to this little helper guy. So each of these apartment buildings are essentially our servers. So whenever you rent hosting space, you're renting from your GoDaddy landlord or DreamHost landlord. So once the browser gets there, he knocks on the door and says, hey guys, I use Webfaction for my host, which I really like, by the way. If anybody's looking for a web host recommendation, it's kind of a little grittier, not as much with, not as much out of the box as some other things, but I like Webfaction. Anyways, that aside, I get to the door of my server and I say, hey, can you please give me notlaura.com? And the guy's like, okay. And so there's a whole bunch of stuff that starts happening here. So my little apartment room, that's kind of like my space that I'm renting. There are many other people renting space in there. And those will be other people that have hosting accounts with Webfaction or GoDaddy, etc. And after they get their stuff together, they're going to hand me this little document. And so Chrome says, okay, thanks guys. And he's running back to me to deliver my notlaura.com document. So to kind of break this down into a beautiful annotated image here, this is the front end. Okay, so the browser, everything I see on my laptop is the front end. This comes from the back end. So the whole process here is this browser request. So I say, hey browser, go get me notlaura.com. The browser stops the DNS server. DNS server is this guy who just kind of knows where everything is. Without getting into too many details, there's a lot more to it than that. But essentially he's going to say, okay, notlaura.com, that maps to 97 blah, 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 blah. And he says, okay, go over here. And so then when I get here and I request that information, I request whatever is at notlaura.com, the back end people, I always picture them as like a bunch of little workers in there. And you're like, hey, get me notlaura.com. and they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to do. Well, you gotta get this out of the database, you gotta get this here, you gotta put this into this HTML, blah, blah, blah. And these are the backend languages here. So we have PHP, Ruby, Python, Java, Scala is what Twitter uses, I believe, Perl. Anybody heard of these before? Any other ones come to mind?
JavaScript.
Yes. Yes.
Node.js.
Node.js, yeah. So we're going to talk more about that in a second. But yes, those are the backend languages. So that's what's doing this heavy lifting in the backend. And the browser, however, can only read HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That is the front end. Everything you look at ever in your browser is made with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. It's not stored on the server that way necessarily, but all of these backend languages are going to take whatever request for whatever data, they're going to figure out what that data is, and they're going to put it into the form of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, because that's what the browser can read. So once the browser's received that, Chrome will run back and deliver the web page to the leader, all-knowing user here. So that's make sense to everybody? Okay, thank you. Just kidding. Okay, so digging into the front end a little bit more. We've got HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. HTML is content, CSS is style, JavaScript is interactivity. So these are kind of the pillars of front-end development. These are the only front-end languages. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I would say that's a safe statement. And it's also referred to as the separation of concerns. Not terribly important to remember that phrase, but if you think of a metaphor of a person, HTML is going to be the fact that my arm exists. CSS would be, what I'm wearing, any bracelets, nail polish, what have you. And then JavaScript would be like if you poke me and I'm like, oh, that would be JavaScript. So it's this idea of the content, it's putting something on the page, styling it, making it look nice. And then interactivity is the idea of responding to a user action. So let's do some inspection here and see what this stuff actually looks like. So I was saying any website is built with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is a site I did a while ago, or-ish, not too long ago, but it has some good examples of the three of these things. So if I go to this stationary page here.
Is it a WordPress site?
This is a WordPress site.
WooCommerce?
No. But we can talk more about that. But well, it just doesn't have any checkout functionality like that, so it doesn't need it. But back to CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So this website, ooh, pretty stuff, whatever. If I take out the style sheet, so if I disable all styles, there's a nice little Chrome web developer plugin thing, and I can just delete all the styles here. And I take all of them out. It's like, whoa, this is a little different. Right? But all of my content is still there. So everything you saw on that page is still accounted for. It doesn't look nice, but it's still there. Anybody ever seen this flash of something when you load a website? Mm-hmm. What do you do then to get it back to normal? Refresh. Yeah, so I need to say hey, some problem happened in the style sheet, all the CSS did not load on the page. So I need to refresh it to get all that to happen again. So I'll refresh here. And then if we look at some JavaScript would be like this here. So I have these images that are kind of loading progressively. Whenever I drag across here, it moves. So it's kind of responding to an interaction. This hover shows things. Maybe a little fade, that could be JavaScript. Yeah, so in any modal lightbox thing like that, JavaScript can also manipulate data too. So any interactivity on a website can be attributed to JavaScript. There are some exceptions, but yes. So if we do a little inspection here, and this is a tool I want everybody to, as you all continue with your coding careers, as I know you will tonight, using the inspector. So Chrome and any browser has this tool called the inspector, or some kind of developer tools section. And you can get there either by going to View, Developer, and then Developer Tools, or my preferred way would be to look at something and be like, ooh, how did they do that? Or what font is this? and I can right click, and then I'll say inspect here. So if you can see that, right clicking on whatever I want to see, and then I say inspect. Okay, and here, these are the underpants of the website. So this is what it's made of. Here we go. And so here I can see inspired by Miami Beach. So I can say inspired by WordPress. I can change this. There we go. That'd be kind of nice. Maybe I should just change that. All right. So now did I just hack the website?
No.
Yeah. Right. So what I did was I took that copy that the little worker guys on the server in the apartment building we're working on, they gave me a copy of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. They made me a copy of the front end of this website. And so whenever I have it on my computer, it's my copy only. So whenever I refresh this page, that's saying, hey Chrome, go get another copy of that and bring it back. What I can also do is look at the styles here. So this is all of our HTML, and you can kind of see, first of all, how many of you are familiar with or have ever played around with HTML before? Okay, so that's it, almost everybody. But if not, we can look at this structure. So the idea is we have a tag, and then inside of a tag is going to be content, and we'll look at that again in a second. But then I have my styles in here. And so this is a great way when you're scoping out WordPress themes, or if you want to change a color or find out where a style lives, to do this right-click and inspect element, and you can see, kind of zoom in and get a little x-ray vision of what's going on in the site. So, let's look at some code, other code, real code. Nice little intro to coding folder. So first, I am using a text editor. Thank you, everyone. Called Sublime Text. Anybody use Sublime? Yeah, cool. I like Sublime. Anybody use Atom? Okay, cool. I haven't gotten on that train yet. Oops. Correct. Hold on.
Laura,
Yeah.
just a quick question.
Sure.
The Chrome plugin that you used, what was that called?
Web developer. I think there's probably another way. I imagine there's a way within Chrome developer tools to unlink the style sheet.
That was very cool.
I'm not sure what that is, but this one just has a quick little
Right.
thing. If you want to really be depressed and miserable, I guess, turn off JavaScript and see how much of the web does not work without JavaScript. That's another talk for sure. So here, if you can, I don't know if y'all can see this, but I have the files for a very static website. So I think one of the things too that's really challenging about learning to code, especially with something like Code Academy, there's a lot of great online tools for learning HTML syntax and CSS syntax, but they take you out of this context of where a website actually is. So what I've done here is I've created a folder on my desktop with 3 files. So I have this intro to coding folder, and I created 3 files. One's an index.html, script.js, and style.css. So those are my 3 front-end pillars. I'm creating a front-end only website now, a static HTML website. So if I requested this from the apartment building, the guys would not have to do anything. They'd just be like, okay, we're done. We don't have to do any processing. That's all we need to do. So in my index.html is where I'm going to add my content, my markup. So each HTML file is created with 2 parts. So back to the body metaphor, I have a head and a body. So inside my head is all information that a website needs to run. So here I have my style sheet, I have a title. This is the title that Google would read. I'm defining a character set. I may put some things in here for responsive design, a favorite icon, anything that you don't see on the page other than a styling thing. Anything that's not content is going to generally go in the head. Any content that is displayed on the page is going to go inside the body. And so we can see, if I right-click and open in browser, oops, we'll get to that. Hi everyone. Okay, so let me do an inspection here. I'm like, ooh, what color is that? That's great. So inspect, and then I can see my text here. So this is exactly what's inside my HTML file. And there's my nice color. And if I want to write some more HTML, then I can do a paragraph. I just gave it away. I was going to say, what would P stand for? Paragraph. Yay! So there we go. And I can can refresh my page, and I get this in here. So the idea is you still have this request and response. So I'm still saying I updated a file, I need to re-request that file somewhere. So there you go. And then styles again. So inside my style sheet, a lot of times I like to do a little split screen for this part. So if I do a layout and then columns 2, which if I was doing this myself, I would have used a shortcut and it would have been like, what is she doing? She's controlling with her brain. Actually, my fingers. So when you're using CSS, you're always targeting HTML elements one-to-one. So I have H1 is targeting this H1. If I want to style the paragraph element, what would my selector be?
P.
Yeah. And then I have 2 brackets, and you can see the text editor is helping me out here. So I press enter, and it automatically tabs over. And so syntax is very important, and formatting is really important. Whenever I'm teaching people and they have really messy code, I'm like, nope, you fix all your tabs, and then I'll come back and we can discuss what's wrong. And usually that'll, reveal any issues with a missing semicolon or a missing bracket. Because if I miss this semicolon here, oops, if I miss this semicolon, nothing's gonna work. Probably not. If I miss this, definitely not gonna work. So all of this syntax is very, very important, and that's what developers also really learn to hone down, is like your eagle eyes, right? So it's like spotting a needle in a haystack to someone who's not accustomed to it. But when I look at HTML like this, I'm like, oh, you're missing a slash. Duh. It's like, not duh. Like, that's hard to see. There's a lot of text going on here. So that's kind of our standard front-end website. And you probably noticed this obnoxious pop-up coming up every time. Kind of like one of those, XXX, you won $500,000, like click here, and again. So this just says, hey there, though. So this is a little bit of JavaScript, and I can write that in a separate file. This is a little function called alert. So a little example of how that would go. A little bit, too, about the difference between programming and coding is a good thing to bring up here. So JavaScript is a fully functional programming language. HTML and CSS are more like coding, because the mentality behind writing HTML and CSS code is more about building and layering and kind of architecturing something in order to put, this is debatable, but in general, it's about building, I think. And something like JavaScript, or a fully functional programming language, is more about like creating some set of instructions in order to accomplish a task. So it's very much about kind of like passing data, creating efficient systems, things like that. In front-end development, so front-end would be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But, and JavaScript. JavaScript is kind of like a touchy subject because it's becoming a little bit out of control. The extent, it's awesome, but the extent to which JavaScript can be used now is like wild and absolutely crosses the line to backend, I think. So, so you can absolutely think about HTML and CSS as system design, kind of, because you want to make something that's maintainable and have some kind of system as to where your elements are. So in a WordPress theme, for example, they didn't just like write out all the HTML for posts and pages and tags, everything, without thinking about it, right? You plan this stuff a lot, so it is kind of system as well. Anyways, any questions about that kind of front-end stuff first? We'll have time for questions afterwards too. So, next, and that's what your themes are going to be made of. Themes are going to be HTML and CSS, and then the WordPress content is injected in there, which we're going to look at in a second here. So, yay! Okay, we just looked at some code, and I like to put little eye bleaches in here. This is like kind of a thing. This is my family's dog. Her name is Phoebe. Nice, so you can look at her for a second instead of code. Take a drink. Yeah. Alright, backend. Ooh. Okay. Backend, we got PHP, which is WordPress, of course. Python, heard of that. Ruby, JavaScript, back to what you brought up. JavaScript can be used on the backend now, and this is why I'm so like flaky about describing it, because JavaScript can be used in terms of like user experience or UI enhancements, where it's like, oh, fade something in. But JavaScript can also fully power the back end of a web application. Basically, they took what runs JavaScript in the browser and kind of like turned it into a new brain for a server. So JavaScript can also live on a server now. That's a whole course in itself to talk about that. Scala, and on and on and on. So lots and lots of languages. And this is something people take into a lot of consideration before they build something. But we, of course, are interested in WordPress. Okay, so back to a little metaphor here. If I say, Mr. Chrome, get me notlaura.com/contact, I'm providing a little more specificity here in what I want. So when Chrome gets to the apartment building or to the server, these guys now know to return information specific to contact. So those guys are the backend, PHP, or WordPress. So WordPress, when we ask for the contact page, WordPress is what processes that. So that's kind of it's Team WordPress on the server there in the apartment building. They're like, okay, WordPress guys, like, get the title, get the content, gotta get all this stuff, turn it into HTML, and then stir it up. So instead of having statically written markup like this, which is what I had in my section over here, I had, hi everyone, if this was my page that said contact, or if I had another page called about, do you think I would have a different HTML file for every one of those pages? Probably not. Because we as developers are lazy/efficient. Let's go with efficient. I only want to write this stuff once. There's a principle called DRY, D-R-Y, which stands for don't repeat yourself. So always think about that. If you do something 3 times or more, it's time to think of a different way to do it. So just life in general, you know, I guess. So in a WordPress theme, on a WordPress website, instead of having contact here, the exact name of my page, I have something like this. Yeesh. Gross. So you got these PHP tags. These you just have to deal with. But I've got my HTML, standard HTML opening. Every time you see a PHP opening tag, it's saying like, okay, we're writing PHP now. This is about to be dynamic content. Something is going to happen in here. So it's not just static content. There's something WordPress is doing in order to put that content in there. So I think like pretty much safe thing to say that everything in WordPress is going to be some kind of function. So you're giving some set of instructions for those dudes to go get things from the basement, whatever, go make me pancakes, get me the title, things like that. So, and then I close up the HTML here, or excuse me, I close up the PHP with this little question mark bracket. So when you look at a WordPress theme, you're going to see this weird mixture of PHP and HTML. All that's doing is adding dynamic content within an HTML skeleton. So a WordPress theme is really like the same as this. It turns into the same thing as this HTML page, but I'm using WordPress so that I can manage the content more easily and I don't have to write 18 static pages like this. This would be a real pain in the ass to maintain. Excuse me, pain to maintain. So, has anybody done that before? You've like changed something in a menu item and you have to add it to like 10 more HTML pages and you're like, yeah, that's terrible. So WordPress removes that need. It's beautiful. And any content management system does, but WordPress is, I mean, obviously we all love WordPress, so don't need to get into that. Okay, back to the text editor. So here I have kind of a standard, super bare bones, from scratch WordPress theme. So this is my index.php page. You may have noticed, or probably not because the text is so small, that this was called index.html up here. Sometimes the mouse gets big if you do this. Yeah. Okay. I was excited when I figured that out. So index.html over here. .html. The browser can read that off the bat. It's like, okay, I love HTML. Sounds good. If I tried to open here, if I said right click, open in browser, it's not even an option. Because you cannot open a PHP file in a browser. That's like trying to open an Illustrator file in Word. You can't do that. So PHP needs to be run from a server, from this backend application. And you'll notice also we have none of this head markup in here, but we do have this get header function. So WordPress has a whole bunch of logic built into it that runs this get header function. So if I were to go search through the WordPress source code, like the WordPress install itself, outside of the theme, I will find what this header function, this get header function does exactly. And then we have this idea of a loop. This is kind of a weird thing. A loop takes a whole bunch of items and does one thing per each item. So I think a good example of that is if you're going grocery shopping, you in your mind know how to get a apple and put it in the cart and a banana and put it in the cart. I don't need to specify that every single time. I have some kind of program or some kind of loop that runs through doing that for every single item. So I have my grocery list, and I'm like, okay, I know that I need to do this thing per item in here. And so that's what a loop does, and that's what this if have post, saying if there are posts, while there are posts, this is the loop. Give our document the post data, so get all the post data, and then do this for each one. So if we look at this as an activated WordPress theme, it's going to be gorgeous. Love it. Love it. So if I right click, I'm like, oh my god, again, what is this green color? It's great. Nobody else feels like that? Okay. I have a lot of code in here. You can also do, if you want to do a view, you can do a view source. That's going to show you the entire rendered page. So all of this code, I do not have this in here at all. This is what WordPress does. WordPress plops all of this on a page. So when you're editing a theme, or you're building a theme or coding for WordPress, you're not writing stuff like this. You're working with WordPress to figure out what HTML to spit out. And that's what a theme does. A theme defines what we want the markup to look like that we spit out. And so then we have, of course, like style sheet that's specifying our theme name. This makes it display in the admin. And then we have background color. So the same idea. We're targeting body. Even though body is not necessarily on this page, I can target it because I know that the HTML has rendered body. So when you're going through your styles, or if you're inspecting a page and you're like, how do I change that? You can target something that's not necessarily in the HTML but has been generated by WordPress, or it's been part of that application. So we're getting to that. I want to have time for questions too. There she is. Ooh, our little code Phoebe. She looks pretty comfortable there. That's going to be me after another piece of pizza. Okay, what next? Okay, I'll tell you. Code Academy. No. Okay, this is a very opinionated section, but I think, especially with WordPress, you just have to well, let me know. Coding boot camp. No. I mean, okay, again, people whatever way you started was the right way to start if you know how to code now, but in general, my advice for WordPress development specifically is not to aim for these two items. Because a lot of these code schools are geared more towards people that want to do a complete career switch into working in a startup or working on some kind of team. If you're looking to build your own website or kind of freelance building small business websites, my personal opinion, these are not the two ways to go. Lynda.com, there's a lot of good stuff on there. I'm going to say, yes, watch Lynda.com. These are not the be-all, end-all. I have talked to so many people that just get caught up in doing tutorials, and they're like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I sit down and I can't do it. It's like, well, I mean, it's really important to do that stuff, but you have to apply it. So Treehouse, again, no. Install a dummy site and write code. Yes! It's very frustrating. You have to just sit down and figure out, Google things, and you're going to want to smash your head into your computer. But then you'll learn to, kind of in a weird way, love that. When something's not working, you're like, ooh, why isn't it working? And then you kind of figure it out, and you're always learning things. So, yeah. But I don't have a good amount of time for questions here. Before that, though, a couple of applications, direct applications in WordPress of learning some code. So, how about the text editor? Has anybody been in the text tab before? Has anybody been really confused or concerned? Also concerned by what's in the text tab? maybe a lot of like and no breaking space sections. I had I worked for a startup for a little bit, like when I was done right after college, and they had this like incredible map interface that was in WordPress. It was very scary, and I was supposed to like make some edit to the homepage, and I had accidentally switched from the text tab to the visual tab for a second, and it messed everything up and just like completely broke the homepage. And I was like, God, because this WYSIWYG thing just like kind of writes markup for you. But using your coding skills, you can kind of go in and diagnose this, and if need be, say, hey client, do not change from the text tab, right? So it's definitely a good application. Then Jetpack. How many of you have used Jetpack before? Anybody use the custom CSS in Jetpack? Yeah, so I'm gonna look at that for just a second because it's really a nice, easy way to get started. Even on a real site. So I say install a dummy site for sure. Everybody should do that and just hack around. But even on a real site, Jetpack. So actually, let me go into. So in Jetpack, if I go to my little Jetpack section on the side, and then into settings, zoom in a little bit, I can enable custom CSS. So if I activate this, and this will be fantastic for getting your inspecting skills, for developing your inspecting muscles. I like that phrase. So if I'm in here, this was like a little drinks blog I used to maintain that I have not posted in for a while. So if I'm like, oh, I want to change this color. First of all, check if you can do that in the customizer or some kind of theme options. But I'm like, I want to change this. So I'm going to right click and inspect. And then I'll see. Branding, masthead. Oh, there we go. Okay, so now I see where this style is coming from. And this is the same process you would use to work on child themes, which I'm not going to get into now, but another great thing to get you started in coding. So I'll copy this, and then I can copy this selector, so exactly what this is targeting, and then I could add this to inside Jetpack. Now that I've enabled this, under Appearance, it gives me this Edit CSS section, and then I could add a little style here and start writing some CSS. So that's kind of an immediately way to get started. Then we can also look at hacking a theme. So definitely do not do this on a production site ever, please. And do not use this theme that you're hacking as a production theme, but take some theme you like, some theme you use, 2016 is a great option, or anything from the WordPress repository, download it, install it on a dummy website, or local, if you have MAMP or kind of a local environment set up, that's a great way, and just go into the code and start changing things, and break things, and then Command Z to undo what you broke, and get rid of the white screen and cryptic PHP errors. And so, but come up with a task for yourself. Maybe say, okay, I want to not show the author here, or I want to show related posts, or I want to list the tags in a different place. Kind of come up with little tasks for yourself and figure out how to do it. So if I'm like, I want to list the tags, I want to show WordPress tags. Ooh, that sounds like a good library. Show WordPress tags. Okay, and then I'm going to see there are probably 6 different ways to do it, and that is the beauty of WordPress. And you can try different ones, see which works, but it's all about kind of testing it out and putting in your 10,000 hours. Except you can only do, does anybody know that? 10,000 hours? Like the Malcolm, I think that's Malcolm Gladwell, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it takes like 10,000 hours to be good at something. You don't need to be good at coding to use it a little bit, and also to be more literate and just more educated. Also in terms of selecting themes. So if you know a little bit about what CSS should look like or what HTML should look like, and you look at the HTML of a theme you're thinking of using, and you're like, I don't even know what that is, then maybe it's not a great theme to use. So you can also figure out what themes websites are using, which I'll show that quickly in case anybody's not familiar. So if I do my inspection here, where do you think a place on the HTML document, where do you think I might find the name of the theme?
the header because it wouldn't show up on. Yeah.
Yeah, the style sheet. But it's going to be part of something that's the information of the website. And it's not going to say your WordPress theme is XYZ. It's going to be kind of hidden in there. And if we look at the file structure of a WordPress installation, we know WP content, themes, and then a bunch of our theme names. So any of the file paths that point to the theme style sheet or any file within the theme, which there are going to be lots, will have that WP content /themes/theme name. So here, I can look at inside head. I'm like, okay, and you can even do a Command F for themes. And here we go, I can already see this. Themes 2015. And then I'm also going to see style.css somewhere. And you can also judge them based on whether the style sheet is minified or not. And there we go. And if you right click on this, you can say open link in new tab, and then I can see exactly what theme they're using. I like to do this a lot and figure out what the developer was and then do a little bit of stalking. It's a fun activity. But anyways, so yeah, that's a good way to do it too. Child themes are awesome. I did a talk on child themes. This was my first WordPress meetup talk, which is fun. And yeah, it's a good one. Also go to wordpress.tv. Is a great resource. Anybody been there before? There's a recording of all WordCamp talks, period. It's great. So go in here, search child themes, and here you go. A lot of experts give talks on child themes. So check them out there. And I'm sure, I don't know, you can really search anything. I mean, not quite anything. And then lastly, I thought I'd put kind of an embarrassing picture, funny picture of myself here, because it's going to be vulnerable about these things, right? Like, oh, I don't know how to code, I want to learn. But also, I teach coding a lot, and like I love this stuff and get really excited about it and excited about helping people. So definitely send me an email like if you're interested. It's sort of a shameless plug, but I'm trying to get together, some groups of people with similar knowledge levels, and we can kind of learn together, because it's very helpful to have a space where you're not embarrassed about asking questions and have the support of other people and or a teacher, that kind of thing. So, yay, thank you. So, can I answer any questions? Hoping you can. Yeah.
So I'm curious about your process.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use child themes? Like, how do you normally work? Like, I assume that you do build sites for clients.
Yeah.
So do you start from scratch with like something completely and totally stripped down, or do you child theme it? What's your process?
The first one.
Okay.
So basically from scratch, like starter themes, just a quick overview of starter themes for anybody who's not familiar. This is kind of, I didn't go into starter themes 100% because, well, at all. Because that's kind of the next, maybe I should do that because I'm giving this next time, so yeah, some starter themes. But a starter theme is a very stripped down theme that's meant to be built upon. So underscores is kind of the quintessential starter theme for WordPress. And you're meant to make changes in there. Whereas if you're modifying 2016, you should make a child theme for that, because that is a theme that's intended to be built from its own. Me personally, how I build sites, I have my own starter theme that I've kind of developed based on other starter themes. So nobody ever starts from scratch. Like this little WordPress theme I was doing, you would absolutely never make a WordPress site like this. Ever. This is way too much work. So no reason to reinvent the wheel. But I do think as you're learning, it is still helpful to go through and make a bunch of the files yourself. Add get header and be like, oh, this is what this does. So, to answer your question. Yeah.
What are the common pitfalls like beginners run into?
Well, I think not knowing where to start. Working on live sites. Do not work on the live ones. Honestly, like that's an easy thing to do. Because you're like, oh, I'll just try, changing this around. Like I think I can just delete this line. Make a safe little playground for yourself. So make a subdomain on your server called like playground.blahblah.com. Install WordPress there. Pick a theme and just hack around, or start with it on your local server, which would be the best option. Other pitfalls, I think,
copy your whole site down, play with it there, then make the change.
Right, yeah, if you have the environment set up and you want to work on a real site. But I think for,
Sorry, the biggest, I think the biggest pitfalls is people using the built-in code editor in
oh,
WordPress.
oh,
You can take a site down with one typo, and you would have, and it's gonna be a real pain to get it back up.
absolutely. I hide that on my client
Yep,
sites.
you should have.
Yeah, so right here, this editor,
Do not.
don't do that.
Put an X next to it.
Yeah.
No.
You can edit plugins in here.
Oh.
You can edit anything. I mean, I've used it for something at some point, but there's no syntax highlighting. If you reload the page, you can't Command Z and undo things. Yes, this is absolutely the biggest pitfall. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you hide it from clients?
I don't remember. Have to look it up.
If you want to take it out of your client's sites in the WP config file, there's a constant that you can set, disable editor, I believe.
Oh, thank you.
If you're making a dummy site, would you do that on WordPress.com or WordPress.org?
You would have to do it on WordPress.org because the themes on WordPress.com are not open source. So, meaning you don't have access
So
to
if you
that
have your
code.
actual, if you have your actual blog on WordPress.org, you can make a second theme, a dummy theme?
Were you gonna?
I was gonna say, yeah, actually, the themes on the .com, there is a site that you can get them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
They host
cool.
it, I don't know the exact name.
The theme, but you can't edit it on WordPress.
If you use the.
Yeah, like you can't. Can you upload it? Your own thing, yeah. So the themes themselves, like if you're on WordPress.com, you're like, oh, I love that theme. I want to edit it. You can find it. You're saying somewhere
You
else.
can use it on your own site, but
Yeah.
you can't edit. WordPress.com is it's designed to be a very safe environment, so you don't have to do this kind of stuff. But if you want to discontinue, then you have to host it yourself.
Yeah. I think yes, WordPress.org. But when you say on WordPress.org, that is like you have your own space in your apartment building, in your hosting area, and have installed WordPress there. So it's on WordPress.org and that you're using WordPress, but it's actually on your own server.
So you should really experiment with this kind of stuff on your formal blog.
So
You can mess yourself up.
correct. Do not do it. I mean, what
Well, I mean.
kind of what I'm talking about, like
Exactly.
really digging in, you don't want to do that on your own blog. Yeah.
Do you have experience building plugins?
Not really. A little bit, but not really.
Is JavaScript the future of
I
WordPress?
was like gonna finish your sentence for you, and then said that. Yes.
Yeah. It is, right?
I mean, Matt Mullen like said that explicitly at
So
WordCamp
PHP
US. He's like, if you can do anything to better yourself, learn JavaScript. So yes, but I also think you would do well to learn some of this stuff as well. So yes, it is though. Yeah.
So when you adapt a theme for a client, do you then take out the theme name and developer and put in your own name and make up your own name of the theme? Or do you do both?
So when you say adapt a theme for a client, what you should be doing, if you're taking an existing theme, always child theme it.
Right.
So always make a child theme, in which case that would be your own theme. Me personally, I always, when I work from a starter theme, I will edit the thing and make it very specifically. I even put like a screenshot for them, all that kind of stuff, so it looks very custom. Yeah. Jack?
I just wanted to point out if you are playing with someone else's theme and you're making changes on it, if you do not change the name of the theme itself and possibly even the folder, if there's an automatic update, you'll lose all your changes, and that's why it's important to copy it over and then play with the copy.
Yeah, like whenever I was gonna show this. I was messing with 2016. So I had a 2016 child theme here, and then I made a 2016 dash playtime. So that's an idea of what you could do.
So I think just from my experience, what I've seen is CSS, you can make some changes on your own, but when you start messing with PHP of the theme, that's when you need to start doing the child theme stuff. Is right?
Yes, if you're messing with CSS in Jetpack or something like that. Anytime you're editing a theme file, so if I'm editing this right here, I need to be making a child theme.
Even the CSS.
Yeah, even CSS.
So then when there's an update, now you're working on the child theme and you install that up, that's not gonna mess up what you've done on the child theme?
No.
It's not?
Correct. Your child theme is preserved from everything. It is the truth. Yeah.
What was the name of the starter WordPress theme that you recommend using?
Underscores.
Underscores?
So in order to customize the theme, customize your theme in, let's say, 2016, you do a child theme, and then you customize it that way?
Yep, exactly. And there's lots and lots of resources like on that WordPress TV about child themes.
Do they get updated eventually?
Only if you update it. No.
But your changes are protected and it's updated, or no?
The parent theme will be updated. So a child theme is essentially a package of your modifications to a parent theme. And that your child theme is protected from updates, and those are all your changes. The parent theme will still be, because you want to take advantage of those updates.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you re-plug into the updated, but you plug your changes into the updated, but they're protected. They didn't just get blown away by the update. Is that how it?
So there's no plugging in, really. Like I literally have another folder here called 2016 Child.
Can you open up the the CSS style sheet for the child theme, which calls out to the parent?
Child theme
Yeah.
overwrites the main themes files.
After it's been updated?
Yeah, it overwrites.
So here's my style sheet for 2016. Then my child theme is a whole different folder. And then I look at style.css and it has a completely different name. But I'm saying template, look at 2016. So it's saying, hey, use everything that's in 2016, but everything that's in my child theme folder, these are more important because I'm overriding anything that's in the parent theme. It's like kind of my changes. Yeah.
Before I wasn't specific enough, I use Genesis framework and Studio Press themes that have the child themes. So if it was that type of child theme, would you normally make yourself the author if you're editing it, or no, because somebody else really knows?
I would say yeah, I would add my name to it though. On the child, I mean, if it's a child theme, you're the author of it, I think.
Well, no, because you buy it.
Edit the Genesis child theme?
Yes.
Oh, it's so bad.
Really?
I mean, you have to, right? There are no grandchild themes.
No, right. What's so bad about that?
You could use the custom CSS. If you're just doing CSS changes, you could use custom CSS through Jetpack or some other plugin, and then you're not even touching the child theme.
Yeah, but Jetpack so slows you down.
You don't need Jetpack. Just Google
Is that a
CSS,
second
custom
import?
CSS, or other plugins.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, definitely.
Yeah, the Jetpack thing is kind of just like a quick, no messing with environments.
Why are you changing the name in the child theme? Nobody will see unless they go into the CSS style sheet.
They will see it in the admin area. So if I look at, where are we? Here. So if I look at my themes here, appearance themes, this is my child theme. This is the 2016 child theme. And it looks like its own theme.
So instead of saying child theme, it says the name.
Right. So this is just for visual, like vanity purposes. I'm not familiar enough with using Genesis and child themes to say what the general convention is there. But yeah, I mean, I would say when in doubt, if you're like not sure if you want to erase someone's name, just put "and" with your name. It's always nice to give people credit. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another question. So you were talking about how you were also an artist, or you were formally educated as an artist. So because I know a lot of people who actually have that kind of background, and then they end up working with websites and getting into code. So do you have a designer that you work with, or are you also filling those shoes? And how do you manage that? Because it's a whole different part of your brain, really, to go, for me anyway, to be the designer, and then also have to work on building the site.
Yeah, so I think, I don't 100% agree with that. I think they kind of are the same. You have to look at it. It's all about kind of the perspective. But programming is a different part of the brain. Coding and building these kind of HTML and CSS systems and interface elements, I think is very designer friendly because it's all about patterns in a lot of ways. So, because if you're designing for print, you have some kind of typography pattern that applies one-to-one to websites. Even artistically, like if you're working on more fine art stuff, it's still about kind of an overall I don't know, I'd have to think a little bit more about connecting those two. But for me, it's like puzzle solving. Really, like when you get into it, it's solving puzzles.
So that first site that you showed us, the card, the stationery site, that's all completely your design as well?
No, I worked with this woman as a designer who site it was. It depends on the website.
Okay.
Nowadays, I prefer not to design things all the way.
Right.
But I used to do everything. So depends on your workflow and like the size of the site, scope of the project. So yeah. Anybody else? Yeah, cool. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey, a couple things, if you don't mind, if you continue your tags, you don't need them anymore, I'm just gonna integrate with the RSVP and then email all the no-shows.